Hey there, just a quick note before we get into today's episode. Are you tired of staring at a blank screen, wondering what the heck you're going to talk about this week on your podcast? Or even worse, wondering if your episodes are even helping you get clients? What if I could take that planning off of your plate for the next 3 months? I just opened up a done-for-you 3-month episode plan where I will create a custom 12-episode roadmap built for your offers, your opt-ins, your goals, your podcast, so that your podcast leads to email subscribers and clients. You will walk away with a 3-month plan with 12 episode titles, episode purpose, call to actions based on your offers, and a clear content plan that you can plug right into your workflow. So there's no more guessing about what you're going to talk about for at least 3 months. This is a brand new offer, and for the next 2 weeks until January 23rd, you can grab it at a beta price of only $97. The regular price will be $297 after January 23rd. So if you want strategic episode planned just for you and your offers, your business, and I'm not talking about just a bunch of ideas that will go nowhere. This follows my framework. So it'll be all laid out for you, 12 episodes that you do not have to worry about. That's 3 months. So if you are interested, click the link in the description below to get started or to learn more. Now let's get into today's episode. Hey there, welcome back to Podcast First Marketing. I am Allison. If you heard last week, we talked a lot about podcast episode titles and how to title them to make someone click play. And what we're going to talk about today is something that's actually overlooked even more than that, and that is the episode description. And that is the little paragraph under your title. Some people refer to this as show notes, and I'll clarify that in a little bit, the difference between show notes, episode descriptions. But that section under the title is not just filler text, and some people don't even put anything there. It is actually prime real estate for discoverability and even conversion and even to get pressed play. And I'll get into that here in just a second. But in full transparency, when I first started, I treated the podcast episode descriptions basically like just a summary of the episode, which is what they are. They really are. But I'd write them quickly just to get the episode out. I would summarize the podcast episode and I would put any of the links and I would just call it a day. But then I learned a lot more about podcast SEO, and those 3 letters scared me to death. Website SEO, podcast, all of it. I did not know. And the more I dug into it, I was like, oh, that's not so bad. And then when I learned more about it, I was like, oh, I really need it. And I need to do it for myself and for my clients. But because of the SEO and because it helps you with discoverability, when I started optimizing not only the titles, but the episode descriptions, I started noticing those episodes showing up even more in search, clients and myself. And I'm sure that helps in getting more plays, which helps listeners stick around longer. And the reason I feel like it helps getting more plays is because if someone looks at that title and they're kind of like, should I listen to it? It's almost like a book. Like I kind of related the podcast, your actual show title as the book, but let's think of a book as your episodes. The title is like, oh, that seems interesting. Well, what do we normally do? We flip to the back or the inside cover and we read more to see, is this really what I want to read? Same goes with your episode description. Sometimes the title's not quite 100% to get someone to press click play. I was going to say clay. But if they read that episode description, that might be that deciding factor. So when we talked last week about titling your episodes with keywords, that is exactly what you also want to have in that description is your keywords. So I will tell you, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, I will link it below. Go back and listen, because if they don't make it past your title, you've got a 50-50 shot of them even reading the description. And like I said, some people are kind of like, should I read it or should I click play? And then they'll use that description. I've done it many times. But the good thing about the episode description is that it is also read in search. So we want to make sure those keywords are in there so that if someone is searching for that keyword, not only will the podcast episode, well, maybe the podcast title, but the episode title get pulled up, but so will that description. So we want to make sure that that is all not, I was going to say stuffed with keywords. We don't want to keyword stuff, but we want to make sure it's keyword, I guess people say keyword rich, that they've got those keywords in there, and that's going to help. So let's talk about the episode description today specifically. If you haven't listened to about the titles, that was last week's episode. And that was episode, what is this one? This one is 21. So episode 20 is about titles. Okay. But why does the episode description matter? So your title will get the click, but sometimes that episode description is what will make someone listen. So if you think of it this way, when you go into the podcast app and you see the list of episodes, what's going to happen is if you're like, oh, I want to listen to that, you click it. Well, then what happens? It pulls up the next page that has the play button and then also the description. So half of the time the title gets the click, but it may be that description that's actually going to make them press play. And maybe the title did it all. So we want to make sure that we have enough of the information from the episode that is going to make someone want to press play. Now, they're not mini blogs. They are summaries. And I've seen a lot of people, I've done this in the past too with certain clients, and sometimes myself, I will put like bullet points of everything that's being covered in that episode, but they're basically like a short little piece of sales copy. Like it's going to help someone, you're trying to capture their attention. And I think I've said this before, those first 2 lines, that's what's going to show up before they click the episode. So you really want to make sure that you put some good details there. Now, a lot of people will put, because they think it shows up first, like a link to text you or a link to an offer, but sometimes people don't want to see that. So you just kind of have to know your audience. But again, it should capture their attention in the first 2 to 3 lines. You want to highlight the benefit of what's in this episode for me. And again, I'm going to say it again and again and again. Make sure it includes those keywords, but make sure they're naturally in there just so it shows up in search, but it doesn't read like it's been made up so that it has keywords. So what do we want to focus on in our descriptions? Again, it is just a summary, but we really want it to include maybe like a little simple hook, like in this episode, I'm sharing about this, this, and this, so they know why they need to listen to it. What's the benefit? What do you want them to walk away knowing about? And then this is the perfect place to put your call to action links. So any links you want to any offers mentioned in the episode, ways they can find you. If you have mentioned anything in your episode, like I will link that in the show description, please make sure you link it in there. There's so many times I will hear somebody say, I'll link that in the description, and I go to look for it and it's not there. And I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way. However, now, can we make mistakes? Can I make mistakes and forget links? Absolutely. But that's actually going to come up with, because there's sometimes where I will just be talking and randomly think of something and say I will link that, and I forget. However, in the editing process is when I try to catch it. But you can always just have a little notepad next to you, or when you're editing, or if you're having someone edit for you, you can make sure that if you've mentioned any links, you get those links to them. And then just avoid generic things like, I don't know, things that people are going to just want to not listen to, like, join me as I talk about podcasting. Like, explain why. It is like you're getting them to want to listen. So just think of it like the back of a book. You want to know what it's about without giving everything away. Like you want them to want to listen to. So this is just going to be a real quick episode today, talking to you about what it is, why they're important. I just didn't want it. I wanted it to have its own episode. I've mentioned it several times before. But if you ever need help with it, I do always have my podcast power hours. They're real quick. We can get into a specific topic. We can look at podcast titles and episode descriptions, whatever you want to do. You can always go to AllisonNitch.com/power hour. And if you missed last week, I mentioned a new quiz that I have. So feel free to take the quiz. It helps you find where you are stuck in your podcast growth. And that could be your episode descriptions. So go take the quiz. It's also linked below, AllisonNitch.com/quiz. It's so fun. It's just a very quick, free way to figure out what's working in your strategy right now and where, and it'll give you little tips on what you can do next. So go to the links down. Oh, I said I was going to mention the difference between show notes and show description. Sorry, I saw the word show notes and I completely forgot. Basically, the difference between show notes and show description is your episode description, your episode description. The episode description is what is written down below in the podcast app, in the player. What most people call the show notes, it's interchangeable. It can be called the show notes, but typically what we call the show notes is what goes on your blog and a blog post. And a lot of the times it's taking that episode description and just putting it on a blog post. So if you go click when someone says it's linked in the show notes and you go to the episode description and there's a link to their blog and that's all that's there, they're taking you to their version of the show notes. So I just wanted to add that in there real quick. But what I'm talking about today is the actual written words in the player. And we will talk about show notes, blog post, all of that in another episode. All right. I hope this helped you. Your episode descriptions, again, they are one of those 4 key ways to get you shown organically. They're easy to help you get more listeners without changing your content. So make sure that you double check those show notes. The show notes. Yeah, I can't even say it correctly. The episode descriptions. Take an extra few minutes after you've looked at that title and really think about the episode description and how you can word it to make someone press play if they get past that title. You might be surprised about the difference it makes, especially when it's helping you being found organically. Okay, next week, we are going to actually get into the listener journey of how your listener finds you to buying from you. So stick around, come back next week in the next episode to listen to that. And until then, keep creating those episodes that move your listener one step closer to becoming your client. And I will see you then. Have a great day. Wait, don't leave yet. Before you go on to the next episode, I want to share something with you. If you listen to this episode right now and you're thinking, I know my podcast is good, it's just not bringing me clients and sales, we need to build a strategy that does this. You're not just needing to create more content. That's why I created my Profitable Podcast VIP Day. In one day, we will build your client funnel, go over your offers, and then I will do my magic behind the scenes to give you a strategic podcast profit blueprint, which will include everything you need to build out a profitable podcast. This will include a full audit of your podcast to offer funnel map, 12 strategic episodes with call to actions to your offers, a visibility and repurposing plan built for where you want to show up. This is all customized to you and your offers and your goals. If you want a podcast to bring leads and clients consistently, not just the downloads, apply now at AllisonNitch.com/VIP or click the link in the description.